way that really matters is the way that you want it. Some of the hardest things that are usually the ones that we avoid because they're hard. But by going through the hard things, that's where we really have breakthroughs. Make business personal, because it's totally personal. Anybody who says it's not personal is full of it. We all, as human beings, we need to take the time to do the internal work, which a lot of us don't do because it's hard, it's challenging, and there's not an answer right away.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear. I'm really glad you're here today. If you're an entrepreneur or you are starting a business, you will really appreciate this episode with my guest, Kiley Peters. And while she primarily works with women entrepreneurs, I think anybody who's starting a business and going through the challenges that many people in that space face, you're going to get a lot from this interview. She is truly, truly a wonderful person with a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. Kiley Peters is a keynote speaker. She's an international award-winning serial entrepreneur and an executive leadership and business coach with over 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. She has built and successfully exited a digital marketing agency and has recently launched Rain 9, her executive consultancy, helping women business owners leverage entrepreneurship to build the lives that they want. She has helped hundreds of women launch, scale, and exit their businesses in pursuit of greater autonomy, financial freedom, and ownership of their lives. She's also the host of a couple of great podcasts, including Welcome to Aloma and Make Business Personal. These are podcasts that are for entrepreneurs, owners, and leaders who want to change the way that we do business. So check those out, and please enjoy this great interview I have with Kiley Peters. Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear. I am really, really stoked to have Kiley Peters here with me. As we have done on recent episodes, I would love to start this off with a good dad joke. And Kiley has one available right off the bat. So take it away, Kiley.
All right. Well, I hope my dad is proud of this one. Adam, why do you only put 239 beans in chili?
239. That is a very oddly specific number. And I don't know. Fiber content?
That would be the nutritious answer.
Sure.
No, because if you put in one more, it would be too farty.
Oh. That's good. I had never heard that one before.
Dad.
That's awesome. Well,
You've never heard that one?
I have never heard that one.
Oh my gosh. I think I've heard my dad tell that one like 1,000 times.
I feel like I've heard every fart joke, but now I know I have. So that's
there
good.
You go. And my work here is done.
It is. Thank you everybody for being here. That's the most value you were going to get out of here. No, I'm really glad you're here, Kiley. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I think, you have a story that I think I certainly resonate with regard to, just growing up, kind of feeling like maybe you're not enough, maybe being told that frequently in some form or another, maybe not in malice, but in, some form or another. And then having to try to overcome that in adult life. And you've done that through entrepreneurship, through helping other women succeed, helping through your new company and multiple companies. But it's been kind of an up and down journey for you. I'd love to get into that story. So can you share maybe a little bit, maybe a little origin story of where, Kiley Peters came from and how you got here?
Yeah. Oh man. So many potential starting points. Well, I was born in Syracuse, New York. No, but for real though, I grew up in the suburbs of Milwaukee. I was actually born in Syracuse, New York, but grew up in the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and was always really lucky that I had two amazing parents that were my greatest champions and believed in me and told me I could do anything I wanted. And so I recognize how lucky I am to have had that experience, because I know not everybody has that experience. But as kids are mean and life is hard, and especially growing up in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there's a lot of things that women specifically were told that they can do, should not do, like all these things that we've heard. And over my journey, you know, I was told by a number of people that I was too loud or too quiet or asked too many questions or was told by former boyfriends that I was like not ladylike enough or not nurturing enough, or told by a guy that I served breakfast to at a country club when I was 18 that I shouldn't worry about my own education. I should just marry some man for his money. I was told by a former boss that my opinion didn't matter because I was plain vanilla. I was told by a former roommate that, like, this is what I had to do after college because, well, duh, there's no other options. Like, I was told by a lot of people all the things that I had to do or couldn't do or should do or shouldn't do or wasn't enough and all these things. And, you know, I recognize that for somebody who grew up maybe in a family that also told them those things, that they could easily believe them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and it took me a long time. I mean, I think for most people, you start to learn who you are in your 20s. And then in your 30s, you stop giving F's about what other people think. um, and then you start to kind of like reflect and have those opportunities. And for me, a lot of it was, wow, I was trying to conform in a lot of ways that I thought I was supposed to, or I was trying to show up in the ways that I was told I was supposed to or not supposed to, et cetera. But I have to give a shout out to my parents because they always told me that I could be whatever I wanted. And it took me a while to actually believe that because I had to get over all the BS that the world was throwing at me to actually get to that point. And so my whole anthem now is that yes, you absolutely can be whatever you decide you want to be as long as you're willing to work for it. And my whole anthem is specifically helping women who want to own their time and want to own their career path and are interested in the world of entrepreneurship because it's not the right path for everybody, and that's okay. Right. But for those who are interested, I want to help them find that courage, find that confidence, find that knowledge, find that team of people that they can trust and will lift them up and will help remind them that they believe in them, even when the individual might not believe in themselves. Because I have had that gift given to me many a times. There have been plenty of times in my entrepreneurial journey, specifically my husband, he believes in me. And I'm like, you know what? I just need you to believe in me because I don't believe in me right now. But like, if you believe in me, that's going to get me through to the next point that I do believe in myself again. And so to be able to be that for somebody else, because I do that with compassion, like I feel that I've been there. Like that's what this is all about. I think that's what life is all about, is just to be there for people and to cheerlead for them and to root for people to be successful. But in the work that I do, helping women build their businesses in alignment with their personal definition of success so that they're really living the lives that they want. Because many of us have been told that we're supposed to be doing it in a certain way. And I think that's also BS. The only way that really matters is the way that you want it. And so giving them that liberty and that freedom to stake a claim and like, this is what I want. Okay, let's go get it. And now here's the knowledge and the tools and the resources and the people and the courage and the confidence and all the things, because this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And it's okay if you need to take a break sometimes. Like take a water break, you know, stretch it out. That's okay. And if you decide you want to get back in the race, let's go. And if you decide it's time to, you know, hang up the sneakers, like that's okay too. But anyway, I mean, that's a bit about my journey and how I got to where I am.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I think, you know, from my standpoint, child of the '80s, '90s as well. I knew a lot of the, you know, kids were mean, and I think they probably still are.
I think they're still mean.
Yeah, they're still mean. And I was going to ask you that. I mean, do you think that that's changing? Do you think that we're starting to be more supportive? I mean, I know if we look at social media or we look at like those kind of outlets that we have,
Yeah.
that it appears not. But or do you just think it's shifted, or how do you think that that's come about in our society now?
You know, in society or for kids?
For, I guess, well, let's start with kids, and then generally
Okay.
speaking, let's kind of move into adulthood.
Yeah. Well, I will say I don't have kids myself right now. So I don't have like firsthand experience, but second or tertiary experience, like witnessing my friends' kids or like my nephew, etc. Um, I mean, to be fair, I think being a kid, I just said like growing up in your 20s, I think you start to figure out who you are. So, like, I think any time up until that, you have no idea who you are. You're just trying to figure out how to stay alive in many
Right.
cases, right?
Right.
Like that
Yeah.
survival mode. And I've never really thought about it in this way, but I feel like my heart goes out to all of the kids because they're just trying to survive, and they're trying to survive in a group of other people who are also just trying to survive. And part of that is like survival of the fittest, right? And sometimes you have to try to weed out the weaker ones so that you feel confident you're going to survive, which is not always nice. And it doesn't always feel good. So, what I've heard from people is I honestly, I think kids have it harder now than we probably had it because of social media, because of this comparison. Like, thief is the what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. Um, because social media has made it so easy to compare at literally a half a second notice. And now you have these kids who don't know who they are because how can an 8-year-old know who they are, really? And they're judging themselves compared to people who are older than them, their peers, people that they think they want to be like. And I'm sure we had some degree of that, but they were like teen bop magazines and you got them like once a week or once a month, not like an unlimited supply that you were just gouging your eyeballs out on a daily basis. So I think that there's a lot more awareness. I think the conversation around mental wellness and mental illness, I think that's getting more airtime now, which I think has always been there, but we never really addressed it in the ways that it's currently being addressed. And I still think there's a lot of room for improvement. Um, but in my heart of hearts, I'd like to think, or I hope, that we're getting kinder and more gentler with ourselves and with children and adults and everybody. Because I think that you could also argue social media shows us just how ugly it can get. And I'm
Sure.
hoping that that has the reverse effect of like, oh, let's just be nicer to everybody. Like
Yeah.
everyone's just doing the best they can.
Yeah.
But
I
I don't
agree.
know if
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. That's what I want to be true. I don't know if it is true.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, and I think whether it's true or not, I hope to believe it as well. Like that there's a yin and yang to these things. I mean, that for as bad as social media can be, and how dark we can go on certain things, there's always the opposite end of that where there is kindness. There's the opportunity for that connection, and I think when we're able to connect on a one-on-one level, I hope that helps us to come together more effectively. But and so what was the catalyst for you kind of shifting from that perspective of being told early on these harsh things like that people say. And by the way, when we were younger, I think we thought adults knew better, but now we
Oh, of
realize as
course.
adults we don't.
Yeah, we're like,
Yeah.
we don't know what we're doing. We're
Sure.
all still just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So when the jerky guy at the country club tells you tells 18-year-old Kiley that you should just marry some guy, you think that guy knows better, or that he should know better as an adult,
Should know
but he
better
doesn't.
in that
Sure.
situation. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
I thought he was kidding. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I'd like to think that there's more to marriage than money. He was like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, how would you like your eggs? I was like, I'm 18. I'm old enough to know that you're being a jerk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to move on.
Well, behind every old guy at a country club who's saying those kinds of things is a very unhappy man, I think, underneath all that. So,
Yeah, I
but
think so.
maybe. But yeah. So
Couple theories.
what was that catalyst that changed for you, like to lead you to confidence to start your business, or what were the steps that went into that?
Yeah, Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I've actually ever spent the time to think about like a real catalyst moment. But
And if
honestly,
there's not a, yeah, if
no,
there's not a
no,
catalyst moment, just, yeah, go ahead.
I think there is. Uh, I think there is, and I've never really thought about it like this. Um, so I, I had spent most of my 20s, trying to find the love of my life, as many people I think do, and failed. But in doing so, I dated all these people, and I like found myself conforming in many ways to like be what they wanted me to be because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I when I turned 30, I had just broken up with somebody, and I had friends say, "Kiley, just stop dating people for a minute. Like, just be by yourself." And I don't like being told what to do. So I didn't really like that advice purely because I don't like being told what to do. But I listened. I was like, you know what? I think you're right because I think you're coming at this from a place of love. Okay, fine. So I didn't. I stayed single for 6 months, and I dated myself. And I think during that period of time, I was like, wow, I like myself. I like who I am. And it gave me that confidence because I'll tell you, I dated somebody after that who was telling me that I wasn't enough of these things and I wasn't all these things, right? And having had that time to reflect by myself, I was like, you know what? Screw you, because I'm actually pretty great. And if you don't like that and you can't see that, then this isn't going to work. And I think it was that like that opportunity to just be alone and date myself, and I spent a lot of like Saturday nights by myself, and I was fine with that, like, and I really liked it. Um, and so I think that really gave me a lot of the confidence. And then I will also say that, actually, I think it might have been towards the end of that year is when I started my business, my first business. Um, and having had that time in that space gave me the confidence to say, you know what, I want to do this in a way that's at the time, for anybody listening, I started a digital content marketing agency, but I was 100% virtual before being virtual was cool to do. Before the world shut down and told us
Before it
that we
was cool,
had to. um, and I was like, you know what? I need a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, and I can do a lot of this work. And I've built up this community of people that I know I can tap into if I need them. And so it really gave me the sense of confidence of like, one, confident that I have the skill sets, two, confident that I had the community, and three, that I wanted to do it in a different way because it had lower overhead, less stress, less pressure, and I could still get the work done. And yeah, I think it was taking that time to be alone and experience some hard things, and come out on the other side and be like, wow, look, that didn't kill me. I did
yeah.
it. I can
That's
do this.
I love that concept of dating yourself. I've never heard it like that before, and it sounds so simple. I mean, in terms of like, yeah, just spend some time alone, right? What went into that? Like was there anything intentional that you did to date yourself? Did you like take yourself out, or how did that look to kind of get that clarity that you
Yeah.
needed?
Well, for me at that specific time, like I had moved out of living with somebody. So I was like literally living by myself in a place that I felt was nice and like, I made me feel good living there. Um, and I think it was just being really intentional with how I was spending my time. That year was also when I wrapped up my MBA. So I graduated with my MBA. I lived by myself. I graduated with my MBA. I stopped dating people for a little while. Oh, Adam, I feel like you'll appreciate this. I started watching, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I started watching the Sex and the City series when I moved into this apartment, and I finished binging it the night I finished packing as I moved out. And so that entire year, I hung out with Carrie and Samantha and Charlotte and Miranda.
I
So
love it.
like I was never really alone on a Saturday night because I always had the girls on TV.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Sex and the City had like something to do with like me coming into my womanhood and being like, I am woman. Hear me roar. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never really thought about it, but yeah, Sex and the City was definitely there with me for that entire year.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, because I think there are those shows or maybe those books or those series that you
Yeah.
get into that kind of serve as defining moments or maybe as like an avatar to what you want to be, to some kind of escapism. I mean, I had
Kinda,
that
yeah.
with Magnum PI in college. And
There you
and yeah,
go.
the mustache didn't look great on me, but that was kind of the way it went. But yeah, but it's interesting, and I think what I'm gathering though is just this general sense of if you there's benefit to spending time with yourself, and
Hmm.
that doesn't mean being lonely. I mean, I think that is
Yeah.
different than being lonely,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is not great. We still need that connection, but we also need to connect to ourselves. I think there's power in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I just want to piggyback on that because again, I've never really thought about it in this capacity. I worked with a coach for like 3.5 years. And one of the biggest things that I got out of this, I mean, I got a lot of things, but one of the biggest insights was that for me as a professional and as a whole human, I need like time and space to think, learn, build, create. That's how I function best. But I also never tied it to this period of time where I spent so much time very intentionally by myself. And now I very much crave and carve out time, uninterrupted time to spend by myself because it's when I think the best and I connect the dots in new ways. And yeah, so I never really connected those two until this moment, but I think there's probably a very real parallel there.
I love that. And what does that time, intentional time alone, look like to you now? Like, how are you carving that out, and what are you doing during that time?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done is I usually try not to take any meetings on Mondays or Fridays because
Hmm.
that gives me Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, like 4 full days to like breathe and use it as my time. Right. So it gives me the opportunity to get into a flow. Right. So whether that means like I go hiking or I go for a walk or I go to a coffee shop, like I'm not afraid of working on a Saturday morning or a Sunday afternoon if the flow feels right, right? But I like being able to give myself that space to do that. Every now and then, like usually the last week of July, I will also block out my calendar. So I have like a full week to just like lock myself up in a room or a place and just think. I think there's like Steve Jobs used to do this or Bill Gates, used to lock themselves up a couple times a year just to consume content and think, right? Um, so that kind of stuff. I love going for walks. So I'll go for walks or it's almost summertime now. And I have this tiny but mighty garden that I can like put in headphones and listen to an audiobook. And I'll get lost in this garden. It's tiny. It's a tiny garden, but I can spend like 5 hours a day in this garden just listening to audiobooks. So just like creating this space, but it's all by myself, right? I like doing yard work again with audiobooks. And so it's just like me, my thoughts, and like some kind of content filtering in. Or just going for a walk and like asking what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
Like, just kind of slowing it down and quieting things, like my husband, for example, he likes to relax by watching TV. When he's not around, I relax by like having silence.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like if he's gone for the weekend, like I probably won't even turn on the TV because I
Yeah.
just want it to be quiet.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
shh.
Hey everyone, I interrupt this program to introduce you to a powerful tool that will help you gain clarity on your vision and accelerate your growth and achievement. If you're listening to this show, it is likely that you have an exciting vision for your life. But the problem is that we often get caught up in the day-to-day. We get distracted, we face uncertainty, overwhelm, and self-doubt. And as a result, the gap between where you are and where you want to be seems insurmountable. And that's why I created a framework for how you can turn your vision into strategic, disciplined action that will accelerate your results in the next 90 days. I call it the Vision Reflection Retreat. It is a 2-day solo excursion designed to reignite passion and adventure into your busy life and realign your focus toward your why. This is the very same framework that I use every 90 days to reflect on my own life and my vision and set my goals for the next quarter. And it has been a game changer. And the good news is that I'm giving away this Vision Reflection Retreat guidebook for free when you sign up for my newsletter. Simply go to flowoverfear.com/retreat and download your free guide and enjoy the journey. I hear you. I'll shut up. I won't talk anymore. No, I get it. No, that's no. I love that, and I feel like, when I hear like absolute silence, it scares me a little, because I know that that's where my brain lives, and that's where all the thoughts are, and that's always scary. So I
Yeah.
find myself, and I don't know if listeners out there can relate to this. I'm sure that many can. That we intentionally, or we maybe unintentionally, avoid that silence, because we just don't want to spend time there.
Yeah.
But it sounds
It
like
can be
there's power in
scary.
doing that. Yeah, yeah,
I think there's power in it. I mean, I think, some of the hardest things that are usually the ones that we avoid because they're hard. But by going through the hard things, that's where we really have breakthroughs. I heard a phrase, the breakthroughs are come after the breakdowns.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you have to give yourself space, like go through the really hard things and keep going, because the breakthrough is on the other side. But you have to go through the rainstorm in order to find the rainbow, right?
yeah. Right. Breakthrough is on the other side of breakdown. I love that. Um, and yeah, so I'd love to hear about, your first business, starting your first business, how, you did that after that year of solitude. And what did that look like for you? What was the business, and how did it take off for you?
Yeah. It was an interesting experience. I think people, as they start their first business, they have everybody's first time is a unique experience. So I started a digital content marketing agency, and I started it because somebody I was dating was like, "Hey, you should do this thing." And I was like, well, this sounds interesting. That turned out to be terrible. I ended up buying him out of the partnership, and then he later threatened to sue me, which was a really fun thing.
Oh
So
my
that was a whole
gosh.
thing.
Wow.
And I have to be careful with
Mhm.
what I say, because I can't say bad things.
Sure.
I'm only saying facts. It was a great
Right.
learning experience, though, and one that I actively try to help my clients avoid, because it almost destroyed me. It was a terrible, a terrible first start to running a business. But I learned a lot really fast. I learned a lot really fast. I think I learned more in the first year of building that business than a lot of people have probably learned 5, 6 years in. And so for that, I'm very grateful. Um, so yeah, I used the resources that were given to me by, at that time, a trusted person, and then very quickly realized not to trust said person, or any of the resources that they gave me. And honestly, at that time, like, really, a lot of people sometimes give me shit for, oh, well, you only work with women and you're supporting all these women and you must hate men. I don't hate men. I'm married to a man. He's great. Adam, you're lovely. Like, there are great men out there. But for me, at the beginning of starting my career, I was handed an attorney, an accountant, and a business partner who were all men who all threatened me. And I fired all of them and hired all women. And they were like, "We've got you. Here we go." And I was like, "Okay, thank you so much, because I don't know what's happening. I have no money and I don't want to lose this." They're like, "We've got you." And I was like, "Okay." And honestly, like that, I just like so appreciative for these like amazing women who had my back and helped guide me through what was a really tumultuous experience. Um, And I guess in some way, like I wanted to just pay that forward and like continue to help women navigate through difficult things. So that's kind of how it got started. That's how I got started, and I was in Chicago at the time, and then I moved up to Milwaukee, and so in that process, I also then worked on transitioning my company from an Illinois LLC to a Wisconsin LLC. I went through it and I got trademarks. A lot of this was also to try to protect me, as I thought I was being like sought after and like attacked. And so I was like trying to do all these things to protect myself and my business, while running the business at the same time. And I'll never forget, we had pitched what ended up being like our largest client for the entire duration of my running of the agency. We signed this client about a year into, like just at the end of our first year of business. And at that time, I had just moved back up to Milwaukee. I was in the middle of like this legal BS. I didn't know if we were going to make it. And we had signed this contract and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I remember being on our couch in our apartment in Milwaukee. I was now with my now husband. He was asleep on the couch, and I had like opened up my bank app to just check to see if this initial deposit came through from this new client. And it came through, and I just remember like rolling off of the couch, going into like our bedroom and just like crying because I'm like, okay, I can pay people now. We're
gonna make it.
Like, this is okay. And I'll never forget that moment of just like, thank you for believing in me, to this client specifically, like, and to everybody who ever like hired us or gave me the privilege of hiring them. It's such a humbling experience to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. And like, that's why my whole MO now is like, make business personal, because it's totally personal. Anybody who says it's not personal is full of it. Like,
oh, that's 100%.
It's so personal. Like, that check coming through that account at that moment gave me life. It also allowed me to not be a fraud, so I could pay the people I told I would pay, and like, and then from there, we built an agency. It wasn't easy. It was definitely not easy, but that was a first big step in us moving forward as a company.
And by the way, make business personal is your new podcast. That's the name of your new podcast. It is the
name of my new podcast. Yeah, very intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
No, So we'll talk about a little bit about that if you don't mind, and then I want to get back to that. But you brought up the make business personal part, and I think that's so valuable because you're so right. I mean, and if business isn't personal, then how are we adding any value?
Truly.
So it's,
So, I mean, then it's just a cookie cutter solution. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm all about productizing solutions because I think that's smart, but not to make it impersonal. There's plenty of psychology that's out there that just shows that people want to be seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
man.
Especially in a place where they're spending 8-10 hours a day. That's what they've made their livelihood.
Yes.
So of course, that's where connection's happening.
One of the numbers I kind of crunched together for my keynote, for my speech, I've estimated that on average, I think people spend at least 100,000 hours of their lives working. That's over 11 and a half years doing nothing but working 24/7, 365. So if somebody is committing that much of their life to a career, it doesn't matter if you're with one company the entire time or you're with 40 companies the entire time, still, that's so much of your life. Let's make it personal. Let's make it matter. Let's make it work for you, because otherwise, what are you doing? And don't get me wrong, I realize, there are plenty of situations where people are like, I just need to make a paycheck because I'm the only one making a paycheck and we're living paycheck to paycheck. I get that. So I absolutely get that. My challenge is like, okay, how can we level that up for you so you don't feel like your life's worth your life's goal is living paycheck to paycheck. Like, how do we make it work for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And coming from the family business side of
Yeah.
things, I know that it's some ridiculous statistic, like 80 to 90% of the businesses in the United States are family businesses. How can it not
Wow.
be personal?
Okay.
Yeah. I know. Isn't that
Yeah. There you
ridiculous?
go.
I still don't believe this. I'm just like,
That's a
wow. But
lot.
yeah, it's a
Oh,
lot.
wow.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a lot on the Fortune 100 and 500 that aren't at that point by the time they're public.
Yeah,
So
sure.
based on like the volume of revenue, it's probably less so, but based on the number of businesses, mom
Entities.
and pop shops and things like that, yeah, it's
No, but
pretty
that
high.
makes sense because
Yeah.
I think there's what,
So
like
it would be
28
personal.
million small businesses in the US,
Hmm.
and most of them have 10 or fewer employees. So most of them are
Yeah.
small shops. I think it was like 41% of small businesses don't employ any other people other than
Right.
like the
Yeah.
owner. Something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Thank you. I'm going to find more about that family owned business statistic, and I'm going to use that in my arsenal of
Yeah.
make business personal
Absolutely.
facts. I like
Take
that.
it, use it. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. So I think that there's a lot to that idea of making business personal, and the idea of not of saying it's not personal is just, I think it's deflecting something that's really true. And so I'm glad you're going there with that, because it's so important, and that you're going there, with the specific target that you have, which is women, because it's something that resonates, with you. It is something that you hold personal and dear,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we all should find in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that that's my whole MO. Again, I have nothing against men. I think that we all, as human beings, we need to take the time to do the internal work, which a lot of us don't do because it's hard and it's challenging and there's not an answer right away, right? But creating that space to do that internal work, to get clear on who you are, what you want, and how you define success, I really believe that that is necessary to having any kind of real success, because we've all heard stories of people who have like built businesses, sold them for bajillions of dollars. Then they wake up the next morning and they're miserable. It's not all about money. Like, don't get me wrong, money helps things, right? But it's about purpose. It's about feeling like your life matters and the work that you do matters. Like, the majority of the women that I work with to help them build their businesses, they want to own their time because they want to use it in different ways and they want to spend time with their families, and they want to do work that they believe matters, they believe is important. Yes, they also want to make a living, and actually many of them are the breadwinners of their families, but that's never
Hmm.
the number one thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so Rain 9, that's the company that you have right now. Can you share a little bit about that? So it came about from the genesis of where you came from, of the businesses you started, and then ultimately exited, and then now you're building into this consulting business. Can you talk a little bit about it? How are you helping women, and yeah, what is the purpose behind it?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people ask me, where did the name come from? So let me start there. Just for anybody listening, it's RAYNE space IX. So the Roman numeral 9. I didn't realize it. I knew I was naming it like a tricky thing, and I knew I was going to kick myself for that, but I felt so strongly about the origin of the name. I was like, I'm just going to fight this battle. Also didn't realize that most people don't know about Roman numerals. Like, people are like, IX,
Yeah.
what's an IX? And I'm like,
Rain
it's
IX.
a
Yeah.
9. But anyway,
Yeah.
so this is why I feel so strongly about it. So I've always been really influenced by Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her work for gender equality. And so the day when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, I literally was getting text messages from people saying, I'm sorry for your loss. Like, my husband was the one that told me about it, and he just held me as I like crumpled in his arms and was like just grieving. And around that same month, so that was September of 2020, September 18th, 2020. I'm pretty sure. Around that same time, I had started percolating this idea of Rain 9, what is now Rain 9. Like, I knew I wanted at some point to start a consultancy. I wanted to help women, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to put this on the back burner. I'm going to focus on my agency for right now. And in a couple of years, I'll launch this. Well, I ended up launching it a matter of months later. But the name Rain, Rayne, is an Israeli and Scandinavian word because I wanted to nod to Ruth and her Jewish roots. So Israeli word that means mighty counsel. At least this is what Google and my research has told me. So this is what I'm going with. Means mighty counsel. And then 9, the Roman numeral 9, when Ruth was asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? She said, well, when there are 9, there were 9 men. So I guess when there are 9 women. And then also a nod to Title IX for gender equality in sports and education. So the name is intended to mean Mighty Council for Gender Equality. And so in my own very, very, very tiny, small way, I'm hoping that I am continuing on some of Ruth's work and helping to level the playing field for women in business and entrepreneurship. That's my intention behind it. And so at Rain 9, our whole MO is to help women be great CEOs and leverage entrepreneurship to build the lives they want. If they want to build an empire, awesome. We want that for you. If they want to build a lifestyle business that they can make a decent living, work 20 hours a week and like live the life they want, like we want that for you. So my only thing is I just want people to define success for themselves. Like get clear, do that internal work, break down, be vulnerable, be open, be honest, name it. And now let's make it happen. Let's leverage entrepreneurship to make that happen for you. And so that's what we do. So I've created a framework I call the DNA of success, the definition and alignment of success. And that's the first step is we go through 4 phases and we help you define success for yourself and get clear on what your personal purpose is, what makes you significant, how you want to be spending your time and energy, what you want, how and when you want it to happen. And then what are the tools and resources and money you need to make that a reality? And then we go on to the business side of things and we build out the entire business plan and structure from mission, vision, values, goals to audience, problem identification, productization of services, cash flow analysis, a plan, your unique differentiator, et cetera. And then we deliver that in 2 different modalities. So I take on a handful of one-on-one clients where I will do that work in workshops with them and then coach with them for about the next year. And then we'll also put them in our accelerator program. So we call that the Make Business Personal Experience. There we go.
All right.
And then the accelerator program is it's a lower price point. It's a group cohort. It launches every January and every July. And it's for any woman who's wanting to start like a coaching or consulting practice or level up an existing coaching or consulting practice in the professional services space. So basically anybody selling their brain as their big thing, right? And the first 7 weeks are essentially everything I just mentioned that I do in the one-on-ones. That's kind of a DIY in those first 7 weeks. And we meet every Tuesday. We go through like live Q&As so everybody can ask questions. They digest the content 1 week at a time. We meet up. Then we get to have great conversation. And then I bring in, right now we have 15, soon to potentially be more, we'll see, women business owners who serve women business owners and are all experts in their fields come in and teach everything from marketing and sales and accounting and legal and financial planning and tax strategy and exit strategy and operations and HubSpot automations and everything in between. So that at the end of this program, women are no longer saying like, well, I don't know what I don't know. They say, okay, now I know all the things and I have the tools and resources, people, community, et cetera, that I need to be successful. I don't have to feel like I'm doing this by myself. I have trusted resources. I have the knowledge. I know what questions I need to be asking. And now I feel confident I can go about and be successful in doing this. So those are our 2 modalities. We also have what we're calling the CEO hotline. So if somebody's like, I just want to pick Kiley's brain for an hour. Okay. But for the most part, we work in one of those 2 fashions.
I love that. That's great. And what if entrepreneurs, generally speaking, always go through lots of different challenges. What are some of the specific challenges to women that you see that are recurring, and what are some of the ways that you might solve them?
So let me just say that these might also be relevant for men. I can't speak to that because I mostly work with women. But the challenges that I see come up with a lot of the clients that we work with, confidence. How can I actually do this? the answer is almost always yes. Numbers, many of them are unfamiliar with a lot of the numbers, the financials, et cetera. So that's why we place a really big emphasis on financial literacy to like try and break it down and give you all the tools, resources so that you understand your numbers. You can make decisions by the numbers and feel confident in that. We see a lot of women, especially in this space, they're still trading time for money, which makes that near impossible to grow beyond a certain point because you only have so many hours in the day, and many don't want to build big teams. So now you're really limiting yourself. So we really help them productize their services. So they're solving a very specific problem and adding so much value, because in doing that productization of your service, you're solving it to the best of anybody's potential capability, and you create that process and the repeatable process, so your profit margins go up, but the clients list are like, oh my gosh, look at all this value I'm getting, right? And it's a win-win for everybody. So we help them with that productization to get them out of like that bespoke work and that over customization and trading time for money. Those are and I'll also say audience and problem. As somebody who's spent the majority of my career in marketing, I feel confident in saying that if you're not clear on who your audience is, you're wasting time and money and energy. I don't care what you're doing, it's a waste. Unless you're spending it to try to figure out who your audience is. Because you have to get really clear on who your audience is and the problems that they have and are willing to pay for someone to solve. And then look at that juxtaposition of what problems you want to solve and your unique abilities to solve said problems, and overlap those with the problems of the audience that you want to serve and that they are willing to pay, and then productize those solutions. So that's kind of the suite of things that we see people struggle with. And so that's kind of why we've built the program in the way we have. Some people, there's a lot of magic, as we've already talked about, in working one-on-one. So you're either working one-on-one with me, or in the accelerator program, you're working one-on-one with my colleague, Amanda. We've created a group cohort so that you have that peer support of people going through the same challenges that you're going through. We've brought in a team of trusted experts, so you're not wasting time, energy, or money on people that are going to be a bad investment or don't have your back. I can vouch for every single one of the people that have gone through this program or are teaching in this program that they're quality human beings. And then we spend a lot of time and energy on audience problem identification and the productization of services. Because I believe that that's the smartest way to build a business that serves you and you're not a slave to it.
I love that. That's so good. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I know you have a heart out in the next few minutes, and so being respectful of your time. I'd love to just find out now, at least, where are you going from here? Where are you leaning into fear, and where do you feel like it's taking you?
Ooh, Adam, such a good question. Leaning into fear, and where is it taking me? I think there's a quote that talks about like, are you acting out of fear or are you acting out of love? And I love love. I love feelings. So I very much, I ask myself that a lot, like, am I making this decision out of fear? And it's oftentimes fear of failure. Or am I making this out of love because I think that this is the right way to go and this is how to best love and serve other people? And so I'd say right now, what we're focused on is just pouring into the community of women that we have built and continuing to build it very intentionally. So my goal with building the accelerator community, we are not going to be growing by thousands of women each year. Right now, in a perfect world, we grow by 60 each year, and that's it. And I just want to pour into them and create the best experience so that they have the most solid foundation to build the business that they want. And that's where we're going, right? It is kind of scary because, anytime you put yourself out there and you're open and you're vulnerable, like there's always the chance that it backfires. And anytime that you ask for help from other people and you decide not to try to shoulder it all on your own, there's always the chance that backfires. But one of the things that's become really abundantly clear to me, because I have surrounded myself with women who have kept repeating this to me, and it just finally sunk in. It took me a minute to actually hear it. But they've said, Kiley, you've surrounded yourself with really amazing women. How do we get more of that? How did you do that? And I was like, oh, well, everybody's amazing. And they're like, no. This is a really special group of women that you've surrounded yourself with. And so it took me a while to like really absorb that and receive that. And so I'm just now leaning in to that. And I just want to do more of that. I want to pour into people. We just, like you mentioned, we just recently launched the Make Business Personal podcast. I just really want to fully embrace that anthem. And we've been doing it more as a company, and it's so fun. It's just like, I'm like, how can we make this experience more personal for them? How can we make this experience more personal for them? And it's almost like gamifying it. And, it takes a little extra thought, a little extra attention, maybe a slightly additional investment, but it just feels so fun. It's just really rewarding, and it just feels good.
Yeah, when you ask better questions, you get better answers, and you start to serve the right people. I love that question of how can we make this more personal, and I was really connected. I did an episode not long ago, just a solo on coincidences, whether you feel coincidences and you feel they're spiritual, or your subconscious is paying attention to something. I think it's important to pay attention to those. And when you say that we make decisions out of love or fear, I've heard that 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks.
Really?
At the EOS conference with Gino Wickman.
There you go.
And I think that's just something that is worth highlighting, because I think it's something to pay attention to. Are you making decisions out of love or fear? So thank you for sharing those last moments. And to the audience, if you want to learn more about Kiley and her business, Rain 9, check out Rain 9. That's Roman numeral 9. That's Rain with a Y. And also check out the Make Business Personal podcast. And Kiley, where else can people find you?
Well, you nailed most of it. RAYNEIX.com. You can also check out more about me at KileyPeters.com. And I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram at both Kiley Peters and Rain 9. And yeah, we've got the Make Business Personal podcast. We've got Welcome to Aloma podcast. And reach out. We'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, on a very personal level, I've had the opportunity to get to know Kiley over the last over the last year through a program we were both a part of. And I know that she genuinely cares. She's got a very big heart for this, and is very, very, very good at what she does. So please check her out online, rain9.com. Make business personal. Welcome to Aloma. And thank you, Kiley, so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. This has been lovely.
Thank you. And to everyone else out there, thanks for being here. We will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today on Flow Over Fear. If you are liking this show, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be first to know when I drop a new episode, including interviews or trainings or dad jokes. That's right, dad jokes. Add a little levity to your life. And if you liked this episode in particular, and you think somebody can get something from it, please share it with a friend. And that way we'll spread the message together. Thanks again for joining me today. We'll see you next time.